Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us on this beautiful Wednesday as we get things started here. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm flying solo at the present. Trevor Trowbridge is expected to join me at some point. I don't know exactly when that will be, but he will be along at some point. I believe he is still finishing a show with Brian Driscoll over at IrishBreakdown.com or, on the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel, where, of course, we stream as well. We stream the show live there. If you ever want to, if you're driving home right now, listening on your radio in or around South Bend, and you would like to submit a question because it is Mailbag Day. If you'd like to submit a question to said mailbag, all you have to do is go get on your computer or, your phone, wherever it happens to be, open up YouTube, search for Irish Breakdown and or Sports Radio WSBT, and just go in. You can watch the show live, and that's where you can submit your questions. It is just that simple. We've got some questions filtering in. The one and only Salty Virginia Peanuts is stuffing the mailbag right now. We have some submitted already from earlier today at the Champions Lounge, the Irish Breakdown Champions Lounge. Good to see our old friend Chris back in the live YouTube chat. I know that he underwent some sort of procedure recently. So, Chris, hopefully you're feeling better as he pops in. I don't think we've haven't seen him as much. Anyway, it doesn't feel like over the last couple of days. But good to see either way that you're here. Well, the big news of the day, of course, really of the last 24 hours, is both of Notre Dame's running backs, both Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price, have declared for the NFL. About an hour or so after the show ended last night, Jeremiyah Love made his NFL draft announcement on Instagram. He may have made it on other platforms as well, but Instagram is where I saw it. Let's just call it social media. We'll go with that. Jeremiyah Love made his announcement last night, so some of the suspense was gone there. And so that was about an hour after the show last night, and then about an hour and a half before this show here today, his backfield mate, Jadarian Price, made the decision as well. And I just have to say that I'm glad that they made their announcements one way or the other. I think we all would have liked to have seen them stay because of the formidable talent that they have. We all would have loved to have seen them stay at Notre Dame for another year together. But at the same time, their talent, again, undeniable. And so while we'll all be sad to see them leave, I'm just glad they've made the announcement, because now we don't have to have all this speculation about what are they going to do. You're saying there's a chance, all this different, people were grasping on to any little thing, any little straw they could find. And like when Jeremiyah Love was asked about his future at the Heisman over the weekend, he left it open. Marcus Freeman was talking like there was a chance to get him back. I don't think anyone ever really felt like there was a chance that either one of those guys were going to come back. And if you look at this, again, from because I know, again, like a lot of people were like, well, Love said it's not all about the money. Well, he might say it's not all about the money, but he's also, just a weekend at the Heisman over the weekend. He's 2 weeks removed from playing for the last time, in his mind anyway, at Notre Dame, his last game at that point for Notre Dame. And, there's still some emotion there from feeling like, hey, we should be competing for a national championship and those kind of things. But, when you look at where these guys are, Jeremiyah Love is 20 years old right now, and Jadarian Price is 22 years old. So when you look at the clocks and the lifespan of an NFL running back, the average career of an NFL running back is only 3 years. That is it. And that's basically the average career of an NFL player. But running backs are right at that, floor, I guess, of 3 years. That's it. And, look at a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, the former Ohio State running back, Dallas Cowboys, New England Patriots. He was a rookie in 2016. His career is already over. Last year, He was literally on his last legs as a 29-year-old with the Dallas Cowboys. His career is over this year. Zeke Elliott's best years came in years 5 through 7, basically. That's the majority of his earnings. Like his most productive years were done by the time he was 24 years old. Elliott had 592 career carries in college. Jadarian Price finished his Notre Dame career since he is declared with 280 career carries. Jeremiyah Love, 433 career carries. So much fewer than Zeke Elliott. And when you look at, by getting into the NFL now and starting your clock now, working toward that next contract, when the average lifespan of an NFL running back is only 3 years, one less year on that contract, that's $15 to $20 million as you project it forward. So that is a lot. And ladies and gentlemen, I have got to say, we've got a special treat for you right now. I don't know where this came from. Vince Jadarian, with 8 days growth on his face, has popped into the show here today. How are you doing, my man?
I noticed you were having to roll solo, so I figured I'm going to prop myself up here a little bit and help you out.
Nice. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen you wear glasses. I don't even think I knew you wore glasses.
Well, that was a surprise as well. They're like, okay, they're getting ready to roll me into surgery, and they're like, hey, did you want to put your glasses on, or you want to, and I'm like, well, I got my contacts in. They're like, not allowed to do that. And I was like, that would have been good to know.
Yeah, interesting.
So I had to pop those suckers out, and I've been glasses ever since.
So you're about not quite a week out since surgery.
What is today? Wednesday?
Yeah.
So yeah, day 6, I guess, post-op.
Okay.
And today I feel pretty darn good. I went out for a little bit of a drive. Had to pick my daughter up for an appointment, and slowly.
Is it easier to sit up? Is it easier to sit up after having a kidney taken out than your appendix taken out?
It's easier this time by far, like not even close.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm nicely in my window of like pain med right now. It's hard to take like a super deep breath. You know what I mean? So I'm probably a little breathier than I should be, that kind of a thing. But yeah, you know what? I'm here. I'm alive, and obviously I haven't shaved in 6 days. But I saw you were solo, and I was like, I can give you a few minutes, man. Like I don't know if I can do a whole show or not, but I didn't. I saw our boy Trev is kind of not being held hostage, just the wrong terminology to use, but they're finishing up their show, and he can't just bail. So I figure, what the heck, man? Let's do this.
He texted me about an hour ago and said, just a heads up, I'm going to be pushing it to get in there. So, all right. Well, first and foremost, it's great to have you back.
Yeah, but, man.
We're right in the middle of this Jadarian Price.
Yeah.
Jeremiyah Love, I think probably the least surprising news.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say?
Oh, 100%. I heard you say that you were glad they did it within a few hours of each other. Me too. Just to take away the angst and the, will he or won't he? Like exactly. This is the worst kept secret on the planet that they're probably both going to leave, and they both should leave. With the wear and tear of a running back. You were going into, I'm not going to repeat everything you said because it's all accurate. Those two needed to start their NFL clock. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. And there are some horses in the Notre Dame backfield, in the Notre Dame running back room, that now get to stretch their legs a little bit. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So
speaking of which, let's just go straight to the mailbag. Sean Kelly says, with Price and Love leaving for the NFL, which two running backs take the most snaps next season? There has been kind of a question of, would Aeneas Williams come back? Would he leave? I don't think you can just bank on anybody staying, but this feels like much more likely that Aeneas Williams would stay now at this point, don't you think?
If he was going to leave, I honestly felt like he was going to leave during the last offseason.
Yeah.
Because he can go be a starter in a lot of different places, right? I think we can all agree on that. And so when he didn't leave last offseason and decided to stick it out. Now, I don't think it went the way he thought it was going to go this year. I thought he probably thought he was going to get a little bit more of some love and some carries and some things like that. But it was really a 1-2 one-man show, and I'm sure it didn't go his way. But if he didn't leave last offseason, I'm going to be shocked if he leaves this offseason. So I think he'll be probably at least going into camp. He'll be the number one. And then you've got Kedron Young and
Nolan James.
Nolan James.
Well.
Yep. And you got the two freshmen coming in, but I think Kedron Young would probably be next, and he's coming off of a knee, right? I believe so. What is his status at that point? But I would think those are going to be the top two guys.
Trevor Trowbridge is here. Welcome, Trevor. We've got a 3-man. Vince saw me flying solo since you're doing double duty today. Hopefully you got at least a little bit of a breather before you popped in. What do you think about who ends up? Who do you think takes the snaps? Because they do have obviously a couple of freshmen in Jonas Walton and Javion Osborne coming in next year as well. A couple of really talented guys in the 26 class. So who do you think ends up taking most of the snaps at running back next season?
For starters, Vince, great to see you, brother.
Yeah, man. It's good to be seen.
It's also great to see you too, Sean.
I don't
want to leave you out.
More reason. That's all right. More reason with Vince. That's fine. We just saw each other the other day. So,
but I think it's going to evolve as the season goes on. I think Aeneas Williams is kind of the constant that we're going to see, but some of this is going to depend on the health of Kedron Young. How quickly do they want to insert him into the rotation? Is he going to start getting 15 to 25 snaps a game early on, or are they going to lean on Nolan James a little bit more? And then I heard you guys talking about the true freshmen that are coming in as well. I think early on, we could see a little bit more Aeneas Williams and Nolan James, and then using Kedron Young a little bit more situationally. But I then think as the season progresses, I think we could end up seeing a little bit more Kedron Young. Aeneas is still a little bit more of a specialty type of running back. When I look at him, third down, he's catching wheel routes. Not to say that he's going to not be utilized down the stretch.
Sure.
I think his role will just become a little bit more niche to third down, passing situations. And as the season goes on, I think you could start to see Kedron Young take the lion's share of overall carries.
I could see that as well. Sean Kelly's got a few more questions in there. We'll come back to those because there was at least another running back question or two. Here it is from Domer Grizz. He's got his in there. Which Notre Dame running backs from the last 25 years? Oh, I forgot about this. I just saw this before we started.
Oh, my.
Which Notre Dame running backs from the last 25 years would Jadarian Price have been number 2 on that team? He says, I'm thinking Julius Jones, and that might be it. He says he's better than Josh Adams, better all-around college running back than Kyron, better than CJ Prosise. Those are, I think that's probably the list of would he be number 2 behind those guys? It's tough. Think about that offensive line that Josh Adams had. And then, with Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey, and then think about putting Jadarian Price behind that line. I think Domer Grizz might be right. I think Darius Walker has to be in this equation as well. But of those guys, I see a lot of similarities with Julius Jones for one thing.
Yeah.
So he might be it. Those might have been a 1A, 1B situation. What do you guys think?
I know Trev probably doesn't remember some of these guys. And so
Trevor was still a pup back in Julius's day.
Yeah, exactly. And Julius, I believe, was there when I was in college. So I was sitting in the student section watching him run. So no, look, 25 years is perfect in my wheelhouse. And I just think Jadarian Price, I think he'll look back on his Notre Dame career and realize that it was a great time to be at Notre Dame. Yes, he was never the number one guy, but he got to showcase his skills in more than enough of a way to get onto an NFL roster and be a fairly high draft pick. And I think he's got a high NFL shelf life, moving forward. I don't think he's number 2 to hardly anybody, to be perfectly honest with you. At worst, it would be 1A, 1B. I think he would have been right there at the pecking order to be the guy. Jadarian Price is a heck of a running back, and through no fault of his own, he just is there at the same time as Jeremiyah Love. You know what I mean?
And I think the thing that he's got that some of these, just the explosiveness that he has in comparison to some of these guys. And even Kyron Williams, as great as Kyron Williams has ended up being in the NFL, like I think that Price has even more explosiveness than Kyron.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. And he's got a little bit more, I don't want to say durability, because Kyron doesn't get hurt a bunch, and he does run it between the tackles, and he's done it in the NFL. I think there's an argument to be made that he's a better NFL running back than he was a college running back. You know what I mean? And good on him for making that kind of a parlay into the NFL. But I would still take Price over Williams as well.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in the same boat. I think Jadarian Price benefited from the fact that the game is evolving. Running backs aren't used like what they were used to. I mean, the first running back I remember watching was Darius Walker, and him just getting 25 to 30 carries a game. And that's just not how running backs are utilized anymore. And now in the league, the only three teams that do it are the Ravens with Derrick Henry, the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey, and the Eagles with Saquon Barkley.
Right.
And that's really it. And
think about the durability that Derrick Henry has. But, so much of that is just like he is carved out of granite. You know, like, that is like it's amazing how Derrick Henry has been able to have the career that he has with minimal injuries. But he also takes minimal big hits because he's typically the one who's doling out the hits, and it comes once he gets to the second and third level. Like no one is able to square up and get hits on him. But you're right. Like when you look at how everybody else is doing it, like I was just looking, they were showing some Los Angeles Rams highlights the other day. And before they, like this running back runs for a touchdown, and I'm like, oh, Kyron Williams, another touchdown. And then they go Blake Corum, but like they literally look just like each other. But, again, like they're giving Blake Corum more carries, especially later in the season, so that Kyron Williams isn't taking that same kind of pounding, and to keep him ready for when the playoffs roll around here in a few weeks. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Derrick Henry also benefited from the fact that he was really only the primary ball carrier down in Tuscaloosa for a season too.
That's true.
So a lot of it.
And again, that goes back to what I was talking about, like with the NFL, like when you're a running back, I mean, think about this. We've talked about this plenty, and I know Trevor and Brian Driscoll have talked about this plenty as well. When you're a running back, you want to take minimal hits, like, because I was talking about Zeke Elliott at the top before you jumped in here, Trevor. And Zeke Elliott had 592 carries in college. Jeremiyah Love has 433. Jadarian Price has 280. So those two guys combined have just, like 70, 80 more carries than what Zeke Elliott had by himself. And Zeke Elliott's career was already starting a downhill slide by the time he turned 24. He is 30 right now, and he is out of the NFL. And so that's, like Jeremiyah Love coming out of high school, one of the conversations was, we don't want him getting 25 to 30 carries in college because they want to save it, wanted to save it for the NFL, because everyone knew this was going to be an NFL guy. And so I think he's played it exactly right. I think exactly.
And that was coming from the family, like the family and Notre Dame staff. This was a ongoing conversation. This was an understanding. Everybody, wanted him to get the ball more and all these different things. The Love family did not want that. They wanted him obviously to be the number one guy. They wanted him to help Notre Dame win, all of those things. But there was an understanding that they weren't going to run him into the ground. And they did a very good job at that. I think they did a fine job of finding that middle ground where everybody was happy. You know what I mean? He ended up being a Heisman finalist and winning the Doak Walker Award. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job.
Sarcastic, salty Virginia Peanuts in the YouTube chats asks, at which position do you want to take a lot of hits? Okay. All right, Mr. Pedantic, I get it. But
defensive line,
the running back position, like that's the guy who's taking, like, you're going to take bigger and more hits every game than anyone else on the field. Like in terms of like high collision type hits. Obviously, offensive and defensive linemen, there's a lot of pounding in there, but the kind of hits that a running back takes are just so much different than anybody else, probably even than the quarterback, because of all the rules that they've changed to protect quarterbacks. ND Forever 72 says, if you want to go back a little further for us old timers, I wouldn't take him over Reggie Brooks or Ricky Waters. I mean, you're talking about one Hall of Famer and another, I guess borderline Hall of Famer, not Hall of Fame yet, but and another really great one. So no, I wouldn't go back that far, but I think the question was, the question was last 25 years.
Just to throw a wrench into the gears, here's what I would say. They're used completely differently. If you actually let Jadarian Price get 30 to 35 carries, a game, and let's heat him up and see what happens. I mean, you never really know what he could end up being or could have been at Notre Dame. He was never given that opportunity, nor is the game played that way, as you mentioned. And so I'm not saying that he belongs in the same category as those guys, but he's also never going to get the opportunity to be in the category of.
But I also think that where the Notre Dame running back room is right now, it hasn't been like that since the Brooks and Waters and Bettis days.
And they don't go that deep either. Like they went too deep basically this year. Those teams went 4 or 5 deep at the running back position because they had 3 or 4 on the field at once. Things have just changed so much. I mean, it was a running back centered offensive situation in 90% of college football, in the past. That's just not the case anymore.
Couple other good names thrown out there. Tony Fisher, someone that I thought of, Irish Chi-Town says, and Chris says Ryan Grant, and that was another good one. The thing with Ryan Grant when he was at Notre Dame is he had the hamstring issues, and he never really was able to, I don't think, reach close to his full potential when he was in college. But then when he got to the Green Bay Packers, remember, I think he was drafted by the Giants and got cut by the Giants, and then it had 2 or 3 really good years with the Green Bay Packers where he was one of the top running backs in the NFL. But it took him getting healthy, I think, to really realize that he just wasn't healthy enough when he was at Notre Dame, unfortunately.
And just to put a button on the Jadarian Price conversation, he was going to be the starting running back as a true freshman until he hurt his Achilles.
Right. And
so who knows what his career would have been because Jeremiyah Love was still in high school at that point.
Does it get flipped around? Would Jadarian Price have potentially been the guy getting more if he had started off before that injury?
Well, and would Price even still be on campus in 2025 if he got the start in 2022?
That good call. He might have went out
good
next
point.
year or last year, rather.
Great point.
Really good point. Yep. All right. Well, Vince, great to see you, man.
Hey, like I said, it's good to be seen, man. I've gotten very, very familiar with my couch.
You're just bored sitting around there all the time, aren't you?
So bored. So incredibly bored. But yeah, so I appreciate the opportunity to kind of jump in.
Great to see you. Vince will, he's got a little time off still. If you want, if you're feeling up to it, we've got the Festivus show scheduled for the 23rd next Tuesday.
You're going to have to remind me, but I'm pretty sure I've got nothing on the calendar. So,
all right. Because other than that, we had planned on you being out for a while.
I know.
It's the week after that when I'm away New Year's week doing a lot of basketball.
Right.
We had you scheduled next. So
yes, remind me because that's my favorite show of the year.
Okay. All right. Good times. Vince, great to see you. Thanks for popping in and pinch hitting for a little bit.
No problem.
Trevor, you can get a breath here as we take a break, and then we'll come back. We've got a ton of mailbag questions that we're going to answer today regarding Notre Dame football. We've got a lot more stacked up. When we continue, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. What happened to our background there? There it is. It all turned black for some reason. I don't know what happened there, Trevor.
I don't know.
Maybe I grazed the wrong button when Vince headed out. Good to see Vince again. Good to see Trevor. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. It is also good to see you too, Sean. I'm glad to be back here.
So what time did you guys start your first show? Around 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Then
So you went for a while and then jumped right over here. Much appreciated.
Of course, man. Of course. For you, Sean, anything.
Oh, well, you do know how to butter me up, but
Well.
let's get into some more mailbag questions. We got a lot of good ones submitted here. Joe Allen has one. If you get anxiety, which one triggers you more? Waiting to see what players are leaving via the transfer portal /NFL, or which coaches are moving on to another opportunity?
Yes. But between the two, I would probably say the players. I've been very consistent in saying that I believe that Notre Dame has a top 5 roster in the country, and I've been quoted as saying it's top 5, not 5th. And a lot of that is built by them stacking recruiting classes and bringing in the right people. And that's what I get a little bit more nervous for. Look, coaches have left and taken other jobs and gone to the NFL or made lateral moves to others even before this era of the transfer portal. But now this year, with millions of dollars involved, including the players, that makes me extremely nervous. I get a lot more anxiety around players than I do coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I think I get the anxiety when, like, after the guys start going, especially if there's a cluster of guys and depending on their level, like the thing that happened with the wide receiver room a couple of years ago, there was no way around it. That was not a good situation. Like a situation like that, I think makes you a little bit more anxious. Like personally, though, I've just found that like thinking about it, like, does nothing for you. Like, have you seen the movie Bridge of Spies, the Tom Hanks movie?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Where like it was like one of those like Russian embed spies and they were trading.
Yeah.
And, and they were literally going across the bridge. And I think Tom Hanks asked him something about like, are you nervous? And the guy goes, would it help? And like, that's kind of how I think of, it's like Marcus Freeman always talks about, don't get caught thinking about an uncertain future. And like we hear it so often, maybe it sounds cliche, but it literally, that's kind of like what I have cause like when I was younger, I used to think and obsess and worry about a lot of different things, but like over time, I've lost enough hair and the hair has gone gray enough that it's like, what purpose did it serve? Because you can't control the outcome. So you know what I mean? Like it's literally that's where I'm at, I think, anymore. But I think the players between the two would probably that the same as you. That would be my answer. But again, it's like it's more like if it's a like a big time guy and he enters the portal, it's like, oh boy, what's going on? Like that kind of thing. To me, it's still more like the after response than in advance, I think.
Here's all I know. If my wife ever comes home one day and I have a buzz cut because I might lose my hair one day anyways, I'm going to give her your phone number if she's upset with me.
There you go.
You can walk us through that.
That's all you got to do. That's right. All right. Salty asks, although there is not much film on Kenny Minchie, will his development under Gino Guidugli and his backflip garner him extra points?
I mean, look, I think so. I mean, I'm Sean, I think you and I were on a show, Shamrock Up, Shamrock Down, and we were talking about what assistant coach, whose stock has risen the most. And I said Gino Guidugli, not just for what CJ Carr did this season, but for also what Steve Angeli did before he got injured at Syracuse. And so the track record is starting to grow for Guidugli. And so I do think that will. I mean, Kenny Minchie, people forget, he was still like a 4-star quarterback recruit. I mean, he was still a highly ranked kid. He has all of the measurables that you want. He's 6'2", he's over 200 pounds. He's a quote-unquote dual threat guy. That's very attractive for a lot of programs. He has a big arm. I mean, even at the time of the quarterback competition, we said we think CJ Carr is a more accurate passer, and there's still not a throw on the field that he can't make.
Yeah.
But just pound for pound, who can throw the farthest? I mean, we talked about it was either Kenny Minchie or Blake Heber And so
Right.
I think it will garner him a lot of attention.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look at what Steve Angeli did at Syracuse before his injury. And, between that and CJ Carr's development after sitting out last year, I think that you've got two pretty good bodies of work right there that you can point to and say, yeah, like there's something going on that's right in that room. And I think there was definitely the jury was out for a couple of years because of the fact that neither Sam Hartman nor Riley Leonard, I don't think they were what anyone really thought that they were going to be as passers. But I think you can also look at that and say, look, one guy had 5 years in a system and the other guy had 3 years in a system. So that's a lot of time those guys had with somebody else before they got to Gino Guidugli. So by the time you're in another system and then you get to the next place, I think that there's probably much more, okay, like you've already done this. What are you comfortable with? It's much more sort of working with what suits that guy more than necessarily, pure development like that, that fresh, pound of clay or, like mold of clay that you get with a guy coming straight out of high school.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting a puppy.
Yeah,
it's like when you get a puppy, they can learn everything under you. Whereas if you rescue a dog like I've done, first 3 months, you're kind of spent breaking old habits. It's kind of like that.
If you're lucky, the puppy, like if you do the rescue, he's already housebroken, so you don't have to worry about that. But there's definitely a different personality that those rescue dogs have compared to just a puppy.
Yep.
So,
100%.
Good analogy.
Thank you.
Let's see. This is from Marvin. He says, what is the likelihood the ACC is still a Power 4 conference into the 2030s?
Not very. We just had the buy sell hold in the earlier show, and we got this question. And look, for a lot of people saying like the ACC is going to die, like it'll, I guess, suffer a similar fate that what the Pac-12 did. Like the Pac-12 was still a conference. It's just no longer a P4 conference. I had a buddy hit me up and he's like, so the ACC will just go away? It's like, well, no, it will still be there, but it won't be a Power 4 conference because the start of 2030, that's when like Florida State can leave. That's when Clemson can leave. Like a lot of those teams will then opt out. And so I think that you're going to see a bunch of other, now group of 5 schools and some of the other, I guess you could call them like undesirable teams from other big leagues won't want them. Like Wake Forest will probably still stay in the ACC,
right?
Schools like that.
There'll be something still called the ACC, but it's not going to look like what it looks like right now.
Exactly.
I agree. Like the bigger names, those bigger brands, I think are going to be gone. So there'll be something there. They'll try to salvage whatever they can. They'll beg Notre Dame to join up. That's not going to happen. So there'll be something there, but it's not going to be. I think by that point, Notre Dame will have pulled the plug and moved on to some kind of greener pastures.
Agreed.
So yes. Let's go back to some of the running back conversation. Andre in the YouTube chat, Notre Dame just lost 2 really good running backs, Jadarian Price, Jeremiyah Love, obviously, for anyone who is just jumping in and maybe hadn't seen the news of Jadarian Price today. So Andre asks, who do we believe will be the next great running back or running backs for Notre Dame?
God, I know this is kind of a cop-out answer, Andre, and I'm sorry. Like I can't give you a specific name. I think a lot of people in the room have a high ceiling, but I'll say this: they're in the room.
In the room or about to be in the room. The
yes.
2 guys, including Osborne and Walton, coming in, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes, they are or will be in the room. Like I don't know. There's so many moving pieces. One, will Aeneas Williams come back? That's not me putting anything out there. It's just in this day and age, we just don't know. Will he? Maybe. Kedron Young, how does he recover? What happens with Jabron Payne?
Right.
What type of role does Nolan James take on? And then how much is Jaywan Sider going to be comfortable asking 2 true freshmen and Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton to take a lion's share of carries? But I'll say this, they are or will be in the room.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree. Like what they've got. And I mean, this is part of where they are in recruiting right now. And obviously Price and then Love were 2 huge two huge pieces for Notre Dame to be able to get and to see where they ended up. And I suppose fitting as well that Jadarian, like both Love got another first team All-American honor today. I believe it was Sporting News is where it came from. And Jadarian Price was also first team All-American kick returner for the Sporting News. And of course, Leonard Moore got another first team nod as well. So I think Love and Moore only need one more now to be unanimous All-Americans this season.
Yep. The Football Writers Association.
That's right. That's right. Mr. Murdercup says you got Jabron Payne as well. And I just I think that if Jabron Payne would have found the right situation last off season, he would have transferred someplace else. And I've actually that is something that I've been told that that would have happened if they could have found a better situation. And I think that where he is right now, and with guys like Williams, in the room already, and those guys coming in that we've already talked about, I think that it can we say for certain he's going to transfer? No, but it just feels like that's an obvious step for him to be able to go out, find himself a place, and get some legit playing time next year is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, you and I see that the exact same. Unfortunately, the phrase Wally pipped kind of comes up. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL, last year, and it paved the way for Aeneas Williams to become the premier third down running back.
Yeah. Irish Chi-Town says Nolan James, and I think I failed to mention Nolan James in that last little response there.
Come on, Sean.
Maybe he's just reminding me. I don't know. Chi-Town also wants to know favorite holiday beverage. Do you have a favorite holiday beverage?
I mean, are we talking like an adult beverage, or are we just talking a beverage in general?
Hey,
I mean,
it can be any beverage. Have you ever tried eggnog?
Oh, I love eggnog.
I have never tried eggnog.
Oh, it's so good. I love eggnog.
What would you say it tastes like?
Oh God, you ever just have those foods or those drinks that just taste like what it is? If somebody was like, "Hey, what does lemonade taste like?" It's like, I don't know, lemonade. That's how I feel about eggnog. It's like, what does eggnog taste like? It kind of tastes like eggnog.
It's like eggnog, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Now, do you go spiked or do you go virgin?
Depends on what side of the family I'm hanging out with, I guess.
So let me ask, do you get, when you do eggnog, do you get store-bought eggnog, or is there someone in your family who makes the eggnog for you?
Always store-bought. I've seen videos of how eggnog is made, and it's gross. It's kind of one of those foods where it's like you accept the finished product, but you don't want to see what goes into it. It's kind of like that. But I always go store-bought eggnog for sure.
See, I'm with John. I would just go beer. A nice beer. There's nothing wrong with that. If I'm going adult beverage. If I'm going just non-adult beverage, I would actually just say, a peppermint mocha. My daughter and I are huge peppermint people. So yeah. I will try anything that's got some peppermint in it at this time of year.
Yeah. I mean, adult beverage wise, I'm a bourbon guy. I love bourbon. And then if not that, just a regular holiday drink. I mean, call me old fashioned, but I love a good hot chocolate.
Man, people are coming after me for this non-eggnog.
Oh,
it's just never been a thing in my house. I don't know why.
I
don't know.
Of all the beverages to have not tried, I mean, it's not like you said you've never had orange juice. I mean, that's,
right. And eggnog is a once a year thing. It's literally like
nobody's drinking eggnog in July.
Yeah, that's right. I hope not anyway. That you got some problems, I think, if you're doing eggnog in July.
Yeah.
So. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we've got some more Notre Dame football and college football mailbag questions that is on the way. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We continue Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com along with Trevor Trowbridge. I'm Sean Stiers. It's Mailbag Day. Of course, the big news of the day, both Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price declaring for the NFL today, and so that running back room will look a lot different next year. But as we've talked about, there's a ton of talent that is going to be still in that running back room, and there will continue to be a ton of talent going forward in that running back room. ND Go Irish 1988 says, would it be a smart move for the Saints to do everything they can do to get Love or Price since Kamara can't stay healthy? A New Orleans Saints fan, obviously. Like, I think if you look at just the transferable skills, like Jeremiyah Love and Kamara are very similar, both in build and, the kind of things that they can do. I mean, the Saints have the number 8 pick, so they're in position if they want to go after a guy like Jeremiyah Love. But I don't know what other needs off the top of my head the Saints have. But, again, like they're in the 8 in position to get a top 10 pick right now. So that tells you they've got a lot of needs. But Jeremiyah Love he's going to be very coveted for teams who decide that they want a running back in the first round. What do you think, Trevor?
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, transferable skill set wise, I think that'd be a great fit. I mean, at the end of the day, unfortunately, on top of him not being able to stay healthy, Alvin Kamara is 30. By the next season, he'll be 31, and which for running backs, that's
again, this is why you're a running back coming out of college and you're draft eligible and you're projected to go where Mel Kiper has these guys 1-2 on his running back board right now, and Jadarian Price is a couple years older than Jeremiyah Love. And this is why you get out now, because odds are by the time you're 30, your career very well might be done, so go get it while you can.
Yeah, I would love to see what Jeremiyah Love can do in a Kellen Moore offense. I think that'd be sweet. But also, I think their needs extend a little bit greater than just running back. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the same. It's like, as a Cowboys fan, like the thought of Jeremiyah Love in that offense with Dak and those receivers and all this stuff. But the reason the Cowboys are as bad as they are is because they can't shut anybody down in the secondary.
Brother,
they're scoring 29 a game. They're allowing 29 a game.
We're a Houday household. I understand completely where you're coming from. I would love nothing more than to watch an offense that's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, and Jeremiyah Love. I would love nothing more. However, just a couple more defensive players would be kind of nice.
That's exactly right. And like Dallas has gone a couple years without addressing the running back room in the, like they went later last year. They got Jadon Blue, and that hasn't panned out. He's been, didn't even start the season on the active roster. And then once he got hurt, on down the line. But I would say, like, from my standpoint, there's a much greater chance that Price would end up with the Cowboys. And I mean, he grew up just like an hour or so north of Dallas. So that might be a nice, little something he would be looking forward to.
Nice little homecoming.
Yeah. Misguided Passion asks he doesn't really ask. It's more of a statement, but I think he's kind of saying in or out that the ACC and the Big 12 should replace their conference commissioners.
Oh, definitely in. I mean, now the question is will they? And I have very little to no faith that will actually happen. But yeah, they should.
Now, in terms of, is there a need for them to get rid of their commissioners? I mean, like in terms of what they're, let's put it this way. From a Notre Dame perspective, I think Notre Dame people would just as soon see both of them gone. But from a job performance perspective, I think you can probably come back at Jim Phillips and talk about that tiebreaker rule. And I did see a report that they plan on addressing and changing the tiebreaker rule. Haven't said exactly what it is, but
I mean, yeah,
I think the conferences are fairly happy with the jobs that both of those guys are doing, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, Big 12, sure. ACC, no. I mean, there's a reason why Clemson and North Carolina and Florida State and Miami are all trying to leave. I mean,
right. But that's also because of a TV contract that was signed before Jim Phillips ever took over, just to be fair. Like, he inherited that situation. So, and he's kind of stuck right now with whatever he's able to do. Sean Kelly says, we have all seen the hints about Emil Wagner leaving. So who's your starting 5 on the offensive line next year? I'm curious to see what you say. I've got my 5 in mind.
Well, you kind of sorted into 2 buckets of what I want it to be and what I think it'll be. What I want it to be is Will Black at left tackle, Billy Schrouth at left guard, Anthony Knapp at center, Charles Jagasaw at right guard, and Gerby Lambert at right tackle.
Right.
It's what it should be. But it's a different question on what.
But what it actually will be, I think you'll have Knapp at left tackle, Schrouth at left guard, Craig at center, Jagasaw at right guard, and then Gerby Lambert at right tackle.
Yeah, pretty much in the same boat there.
That's what I think it will be. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Exactly. Who's winning it all? Sean Kelly asks. I'm saying Georgia or Ohio State is what he's saying. That's the direction I'm leaning as well. I think Indiana is going to be in that mix as well. I am leaning more toward these 2 teams as I think my teams that have the best chance, though, to win it all. How about you, Trev?
Yeah, I'm leaning more so towards Ohio State than Georgia. Georgia did not look. Georgia had a tough SEC schedule. They dominated, Texas when they played, but I think Ohio State's winning it. Georgia out of conference did not look impressive this year, in my opinion. I think that's something to keep an eye on. So I think I'm going to go Ohio State here.
Yeah, but unlike the 2 SEC teams that'll be playing not tomorrow night, Friday night, Georgia's playing better at the end of the season in comparison.
Sure. To absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sean also says, for 3 years in a row, Mike Mickens has been a hot commodity to leave. How does Marcus Freeman keep him for another year? I think you have to let Ash go and promote him. I don't think that'll happen, though.
I mean, the next thing that you could do outside of sliding over a blank check in your checkbook and a pen, you gotta give him a little bit more responsibility, make him the co-defensive coordinator, and make sure that his responsibilities are ironed out to hey, you are in charge of the pass game. Not we're going to call you the pass game coordinator and then let Ash dictate it. It's, hey, you are calling the back end of the defense.
Right. If Joe Rudolph can be the guy who's in charge of putting together the run game on the offensive side of the ball, Mike Mickens can be the guy who's in charge of calling what's going on the back end of the defense on that side of the ball. It just
absolutely,
it feels that, and it feels like that, like, how much does Mike Mickens want to be a defensive coordinator? How quickly does he want to be a defensive coordinator? He's, because as Sean Kelly says, I mean, he has been, he's become one of the hot commodities, but at the same time, last year, he wasn't getting the coordinator offers. He was kind of getting an offer to take a lateral position down there at Texas, be in charge of the secondary with a little more money on top of it. It sounded like, so like, how soon does he want to be a coordinator? It just feels like you've got to give him like some kind of co-coordinator title at some point, because they're like, you can only heap so many other titles and give him raises for so long. If he wants to be a coordinator and you're not willing to promote him to coordinator, that's going to be what trips things up. And he's just going to go take that opportunity if he gets it, if that's what he wants to do.
100%.
All right, let's see. We've got time for a few more questions here. There was something in the chat from Irish Marine 51 SFM. I'm not going to read that whole thing, but he says, do you think Notre Dame suffers next year in the rankings because of them turning down a bowl appearance? I do believe that their schedule is quite favorable. Semper Fi.
No, I don't think that they're going to suffer, because it's going to be a completely new season, and the committee will evaluate what happens on the field. I mean, I know it's being painted as this. Notre Dame is not the first team in history to sit out a bowl game. They're
not even the only team this season. It's just for whatever reason. Well, it's just all rolled into, okay, you got the playoff snub, you turn down a bowl, you're too good for everybody. That whole thing. It's like no one like it. And because it's Notre Dame, that's literally
100%
what it is. They are a lightning rod, and that's what it is. That's why they're getting all this pushback about the fact that they turned down the bowl game. Like, there have been plenty, think about this. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, right? What is probably the most notable thing that has ever happened in the, I think it's 3-year history of the Pop-Tarts Bowl so far? Like off the top of your head?
Oh, I got one. The most notable thing that happened is the brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tart came back to life in last year's bowl game because they killed him off in the first one.
Fair point. I forgot about that. The
Hey,
resuscitation
man.
of the brown sugar Pop-Tart. Cam Ward, the Miami Hurricanes quarterback, opted out at halftime of last year's Pop-Tarts Bowl. Think about that. Like, was there any blowback on Miami for letting that happen this year? No. It's like once this bowl season is over, it'll be largely forgotten. 2 months down the road, no one's even hardly going to talk about it.
And Miami lost. It's not like he opted to sit out and then they won. Like he opted to sit out and sat on the sideline and actively watched his team lose. So if anybody's coming at me and talking to me about, oh, it's about competition. It's like, no, it's not.
Right.
It's absolutely not about competition.
There have been plenty of other teams who have opted out of bowl games before. This is not the first, as you said, it's not the first time it happened. And they're not
Notre Dame's first time.
They're not even the only. Yeah, that's right. And they're not even the only team that has done it this year. Other teams have done it. Nobody cares about the fact that Kansas State opted out of a bowl game. Son of Donald, who was the player whose importance and impact was most overlooked in 2025?
Oh, gosh.
This is tough.
Ooh, most overlooked?
I tell you what, hold that thought. Think about it for a break. We're going to extend the mailbag a little bit because we've got a lot of questions here in the mailbag. Bobby Hensley due to join us in a little bit for some rapid fire. We'll do one more segment of mailbag because I've got to think about this one as well.
Yeah.
It's tough. So we'll do that after we take this break. More mailbag and then rapid fire in hour 2. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.
Most insurance accepted.
Now, the latest forecast from the WSBT Weather Center.
Skies will be cloudy tonight with rain showers developing mainly late and as we head out the door tomorrow morning. Overnight lows will drop to 32. For Thursday, cloudy with rain likely, breezy conditions and mild temperatures.
And it is hour number 2 of the show. Good to have you with us here today as we roll into hour number 2, along with Trevor Trowbridge, and now joined by Bobby Hensley as well. How's everybody doing?
Great.
I mean, I'm always happy to be here with you guys. You know, the hour we spend together, I actually enjoy.
Okay.
Me too, Bobby.
Thank you, Trevor. You're way nicer than Sean is, though.
I know. I work at it. Okay, we left with a little bit of a tease at the end of the first hour as we go a little bit more on the mailbag today before we get into rapid fire. So, Son of Donald asked, who is the player whose importance and impact was most overlooked in 2025? This is so hard, Trevor, because we're doing shows literally 5 days a week during the season, and we're talking about everybody. So who gets overlooked at that point? Like I don't feel like a Don Schuler got tons of hype, but I feel like he was very important. I don't know how overlooked he was, but like when you talk about the fact that you've got a guy like Leonard Moore on that side of the ball, and like the way Tay Johnson came on this year and really exploded, I feel like maybe you could make a case that maybe a Don Schuler, kind of fits that bill a little bit when you look at just how important that he was for him back there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Somebody like that for sure. I went a little bit off the beaten path, and I kind of wish Vince was still here to have him listen to me give a shout out to the special teams. But a player whose importance I think was most overlooked was James Rendell. I thought he had a fantastic season.
He did
as a punter, especially for what happened in 2024.
Yeah,
I mean, the kicking operation from a place kicking perspective was so bad this year that I think just any kicking just kind of got automatically filed into that
under the bus.
bad. Yeah, but I mean, he averaged 44.6 yards per punt. He had 25 punts this year, and 13 of them were inside of the 20-yard line. He had a long this season of 55. James Rendell had a great season. It just doesn't get talked about enough. You're talking flipping field position. I mean, think about it, guys. How many, part of the defensive turnaround is how much of that was like the field position conversation. Offense took care of the football, and they were to flip the field whenever they weren't able to convert on third.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
But that's also what makes it frustrating they aren't in the playoff, because the team was so good on so many different levels. They set themselves up with offense because of short fields, because of the punting after the defense made a stop. So I think it just shows even more how hard it is for them not to be in it when they were firing on all cylinders towards the end of the year with someone that you said was kind of under the radar.
You're just trying to make everybody like really happy right now, aren't you, Bobby? Got a couple of Josh Burnham responses.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty good one. I like that. Because as Marcus Freeman talked about, once he was healthy, you started to see much more of what Burnham could do. Josh Phillips says Bryce Young. I mean, like, not huge sack totals. I think that, I think people look a little bit more for that. Faison, Chris says.
I don't know about that. Jordan Faison was the leading receiver for like 4/5 of the season.
Right.
But I get where he's coming from. Like, from the notoriety standpoint, a lot of people talk about Jeremiah Love and Malachi Fields and Eli Raridan. So, I get where he's coming from. But, I mean, it's
Still
tough for me to say
guy.
it's tough for me to say that their leading receiver for the chunk of the season was like under the radar. So,
yeah. Okay. So here's a follow-up here. Assuming no wide receiver portal exists without a comparable replacement, what kind of season do you project CJ Carr to have in 12 regular season games if the offensive line is just as good as 2025, so that we're talking about next year. The offensive line is significantly better. Joe Moore, semifinalist or finalist. And he says, am I crazy to predict this stat line? 67% completion, 3,900 yards, 34 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 3 more rushing touchdowns, or B, 73% completion, 42-50, 42 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 3 rushing scores. Okay. So there's a lot there. He finished with a little more than 2,700 yards this year in 12 games. And that was with obviously the running back room doing some heavy lifting for the team as well. I don't think you're totally nuts to predict 67% completion, 3,900 yards, 34 touchdowns for CJ Carr next year. I think 4,250 might be pushing it. 4,250 and 42 touchdowns. Now, again, he's not going to have Love and Price, so the way they go about their business is going to look different next year. So I don't know. Do you think this is nuts, Trevor? I mean, I still think it's a little bit on the high end, but again, I like 67% and 3,900 yards. That's only 1,200 more yards next year compared to this year.
I mean, 3,900 is absolutely within the realm of possibility. That's absolutely for sure. I mean, if CJ Carr throws for 4,250 yards in a regular season, he's throwing for 354 yards a game.
Yeah.
Like, is it possible? Yeah, it's definitely possible. I won't just outright dismiss it. I mean, that's a hefty performance. I mean, I do think he'll have more. And I think that CJ Carr is going to end up in New York at the end of next season, regardless. Even, I mean, with the offensive line play, a lot of it for me is around like, what does the receiving core look like? But offensive line's very fair. I would go more so with A than anything, because I do think Notre Dame is still going to average 200 rushing yards a game next season.
You think they'll have that much?
Yeah, it's just going to look different. Like, I think they'll average 200 yards a game, and instead of it being Jeremiyah Love having 130 of it, Jadarian Price having, 70 of it, I think it's going to look a little bit more like, Aeneas will have 60 some of it, Kedron will have 60 some of it, and Nolan James.
But I do also think, like, to part of this question, assuming health, which we have not been able to assume, the offensive line, I think, is going to be significantly better next year than it was this year, assuming that all the guys that we think are going to be there are going to be healthy. That's what I would project. And so that, like, to your point about, that's going to help, obviously, the running game and the passing game as well.
I mean, and the actual question is saying, literally, am I crazy to predict this? So I guess no, probably not. Yeah, you need a lot more yards, but you don't have as much from the running game. He's going to, going back to the last question, I think we take for granted how quick he acclimated into being a starting quarterback on the national stage at Notre Dame. Because, I mean, a lot of quarterbacks can't handle that and doesn't work out. So the fact that he did that this year, I think he's got his feet wet. Now, next year, he shouldn't just be part of the team. He should be the team. He'll be the star. Like you said, Trevor, he's going to go to New York. So I think that none of that's crazy.
I am Tens and I am the son of Ang says, if he has a stat line that ridiculous, it means Ash has completely destroyed the defense all season. Fair point. If you're throwing for that many yards, it does tend to mean that you have to win some shootouts and you're not running the ball at that high a clip. So, but the question was, is it, what was it again?
Am I crazy for these stat lines?
Am I crazy? I don't think 3,900 yards is crazy. Now, I think that because if you look at what other, look at what Jaden Daniels did in his Heisman season. Look what Joe Burrow did. Look at any of these other quarterbacks who have had really big years as college quarterbacks. They have put up numbers similar to that. But I think that these numbers appear to be crazy just because we're not used to seeing that at Notre Dame. So 3,900 yards, it's like, oh, how could that ever happen? Well, really successful programs, like even look at Ohio State and some of the numbers, like their running backs and their quarterbacks. Like, look at what Josh Fields was doing, I don't think I don't think it's crazy at all. Like, again, I think that is like bordering on the ceiling for what to expect, but I don't think it's completely out of the question.
It's in the room. It's not over the ceiling.
Right. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, rapid fire begins on Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's rapid fire time on the show, along with Trevor Trowbridge and Bobby Hensley. I'm Sean Stiers.
Trevor just got in game mode.
Did he lock his face in there? Is that what's going on?
No, he put a hoodie on. He only had a black shirt on earlier.
He did, didn't he?
I changed. You got dinner plans after the show. Got to be ready.
Got to be ready.
That's right.
Stay ready. Never have to get ready.
That's
All right. Well, both Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price have declared for the NFL draft. So let's talk about those guys here a little bit. Let's start with Jeremiah Love now that his career is over. Where do you rank Love among the top Notre Dame players of the past 25 years? And I realize I'm stretching this a little bit for you, Trevor, back to the days of your youth. Where do you I put together a top 5 list. I don't know what you guys have got for this whole exercise.
Yeah. Jeremiah Love for me is top 5 and he's not 5th. I mean, I put a top 5 list together. The list I came up with was, and this is in no particular order, but the 5 I had was Manti Te'o, Brady Quinn, Jeremiah Love, Michael Floyd, and Quentin Nelson.
I like that.
Those are my 5. I mean, and I know some people are going to be shocked to hear an offensive lineman's name on there, but look, man, I've never seen an offensive lineman block like what Quentin Nelson did at South Bend.
I mean, the guy's like a 3-time All-Pro, you know, like it's turned out pretty well for him. So
yeah, he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is Zach Martin for the Cowboys, right?
He is. He was until he retired. But yes.
I guess for me, my list, I didn't have a list. I didn't know I was supposed to have a list. I came to class unprepared. Anything you send goes straight to my spam folder. Is Jeremiah Love better at college football than Jamal Adams was?
You mean Josh Adams?
Josh Adams, 33 trucking. And that he got close to the Heisman as well. He carried that team.
But he wasn't a finalist. He didn't get to New York City.
I know, but I still would put him as the second best running back because I think that Josh Adams I think he had a great career.
As good as he was, and the way that Heisman campaign turned out, I think that I'm not trying to take anything away from Josh Adams, but I still think, like Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey were both on that line. And I think that Josh Adams' production had a lot to do with the fact that he had those two guys on the left side of the line. I think that had a huge part to do with it. Again, I think he was really good, but I put Jeremiah Love ahead of him.
Yeah, I guess both of them are worthy of the conversation. I don't know. It's an interesting discussion because in the last 25 years, Notre Dame's actually had a lot of good, great players, but I don't necessarily think the pro results.
No, they don't, because we're talking about what they did in college. You're right.
But Quentin Nelson was still very good in college too. That's why he became a pro.
He was.
So I guess they kind of go hand in hand, but I don't know. I think it's too early. It's too fresh. Like leaving right now, it's like, okay, well, he was dominant and he was really great, but I don't know if I need a couple years because then we'll see who's coming around.
But again, there have been 3 Notre Dame Heisman Trophy finalists in this century, and which falls into this 25-year period. Brady Quinn, Manti Te'o, Jeremiah Love. So, like, those 3 guys have got to be on my list. They were finalists for the Heisman Trophy. And, like, when you look at a guy like Manti Te'o, he took home every award that he was up for that year, with the exception of the Heisman, and as a middle linebacker, ended up being a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. So he's got to be on the list. I agree with your list, Trevor, and I would actually – Michael Floyd, one exception. I've got one guy on the list that would replace Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd just fell below my cut. Jalen Smith I've got on my list. And then I've got Quentin Nelson, Manti Te'o, Jeremiah Love, Brady Quinn. Michael Floyd just missed the cut. That's a really good one. I mean, there are obviously a lot of other really good offensive linemen. And then, guys like Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, Michael Mayer, who somebody mentioned in there, like he it hasn't been that long since he came in and set all the tight end records at Notre Dame. But we are talking about the last 25 years, so it's got to be a very elite list, and someone's got to make it, and someone's got to be left off. But that would be mine. We're very similar in what we had there, though, Trevor.
I just wish Kyle Hamilton had a little more time at Notre Dame because I think he could.
Kyle Hamilton. See, like there's another one. Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton. I
loved Kyle Hamilton. He gets somewhat of an incomplete grade.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
he didn't have enough. That's what stinks. Yeah. I mean,
Bernie says, do you remember Golden Tate? WTF. Again, like we're talking about top 5. There's only so much room to go around in a top 5. And Michael Floyd was, again, like as great as Golden Tate ended up being like he had more production once he got to the NFL than he did at Notre Dame, because when he was at Notre Dame, he was largely a fast go route guy early in his career, who they literally, like, because of the fact that, you know, that he was so fast, but they would line him up early in his career on the side of the Notre Dame sideline, regardless of where it was. You know, they would just move him over there so they could yell to him from the sideline what he needed to do. Like he didn't even know what he needed to do half the time, but he was so fast and had so much skill. But I think that, like, it really came to fruition by the time that he got to the NFL. I don't think, like, we just started to see that when he was at Notre Dame. You know, like Samardzija, you know, is part of the equation as well for what he did his last couple of years. But again, it's a top 5 list. There are only so many guys who can be on it.
It's a little impressive that your list, I think everybody's list, doesn't have a lot of quarterbacks on it from Notre Dame.
That's very true. And I think that, like, if you look at the next 25 years, that could change quite a bit. I think you're going to see multiple quarterbacks that would be on the list from 2026 to 2050. So what is your top memory of Jeremiyah Love from his time at Notre Dame?
Ooh. I mean, it's hard not. I mean, I was in person in the stadium for his 98-yard run in the college football playoffs, but then it's also hard for me to not say the 2-yard run he had against Penn State. I mean, probably one of those two, honestly. Those were insane.
I was wondering if you would take, I think for me, it's that Penn State run. What it meant at that time, how hard he had to work. I know 98-yard run is impressive. I'm not downplaying that. Like Sean says, it, you know, a list of 1 is even less than 5, but just how hard he had to fight for it, his athleticism, his power, like everything he displayed on that play to get in the end zone showed everything, especially against Penn State in that moment. I'll never forget that run. It reminds me of right up there for me as a Notre Dame fan with Reggie Brooks catching the 2-pointer against Penn State.
Yep.
Same opponent.
I think a lot of people would put the Penn State run just as a play itself because of, you know, like the tackles that he dodged and the physicality and everything else. But like when you look at that Indiana run, it just set the tone for the rest of the game and how Indiana had to play. You know, like Indiana had the great run defense and all that stuff, and for Love to pop off that 98-yard touchdown run. And like on top of that, you know, obviously like you, Trevor, I was there for it. And then afterwards, you know, like we found out that he was battling the flu and he had, you know, the flu and he wasn't breathing great. And there was like just that point where they were getting around the 15-yard line. It looked like, you know, like, was he relaxing? Were those 2 Indiana defenders, you know, were they actually like, did they have a chance to bring him down? And I asked him that in the post-game press conference, you know, like, it looked like maybe for just a second there, like one of those guys might have a chance to get you. And he gave me this look like, you think so, huh? You know, so like that to me, like is part of that memory as well. And you could see him, and he said, you know, he was looking up at the scoreboard and he could see those guys behind him. And so I think he knew exactly, you know, just how much gas that he had to push there at the end. And he knew that nobody was going to catch him. And you know, like, so to me, I think that's the lasting memory I'll have, you know, especially like being there and seeing that in person and what that meant for the tone of the rest of the game in that first ever on-campus playoff game of any kind that Notre Dame got to host against Indiana last year.
No, I understand what you guys are saying. I just think the further you get in the playoffs, the more each one means.
Right.
You heard it here first. Bobby doesn't like 98-yard touchdown runs.
I mean, Josh Adams had a pretty good 99-yard touchdown run too, but we aren't going to give him anything. So
Heard it here first.
There you
go. Yeah.
So Jadarian Price, of course, declaring for the draft today as well. Any surprise in this decision for you guys?
No. I mean, we talk all the time about, look, the better success you have in the NFL is how much tread you have on the tires when you get into the league. And look, Jadarian's already suffered a significant injury in college already. He tore his Achilles, and he has the production to match it. You know, I mean, I think he's going to be a great value to any NFL team that gets him. I really do. But it was time. You know, like I flirted back and forth with the idea of like, okay, now that Love's gone and how the season ended, like, does that increase his chances of coming back? But at the end of the day, I think he's making the right decision for himself.
Yeah, he's obviously making the right decision for himself. The only surprising thing, maybe they didn't announce it a few days earlier. It makes sense. He's gonna go pro. He's gonna make it. If he came back to Notre Dame, the whole season, every carry is a risk, and now you're the bell cow back.
Yep.
You'd be taking them all. So it's not like you're splitting with Love. You'd actually be the number one guy, which sounds great. But then think about how many extra hits you're taking and how much you're risking on every single play.
It's exactly it. That's exactly it. And the fact that he's 22 years old already, and he's had a severe injury, like his freshman season was wiped out by that Achilles injury. You've got to get your clock started. And I talked about it at the top of the show. Waiting 1 year and getting into that second contract, like where Kyron Williams is right now, you can cost yourself 15 to 20 million bucks. And that's the sweet spot as an NFL running back of where your money is made, because the average career of an NFL running back is only 3 years. And I talked about it in the first hour. Ezekiel Elliott, by the time he was 24, had reached his peak in the NFL, in part because of all the mileage that he had on his legs and his body from his time at Ohio State. Like Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price combined only have about 70 or 80 more carries than what Zeke Elliott had in his college career at Ohio State. So get the clock started, make your money, and go do great things in the NFL. And I think that we all think that Jadarian Price and Jeremiyah Love can do that. So
It just sucks for a lot of the running backs. I know this is what Jonathan Taylor and the committee that they tried to start a few years ago were talking about. They just don't have long careers because they're taking 20, 30 hits a game. A receiver maybe has 4 or 5 hits a game. And there's not a lot of running backs that come out of the first round of the draft and make that money and have successful pro careers.
Right. Again, like Zeke Elliott is 30 years old and his career is over. Like last year he was 29 years old. That was the last year of his NFL.
And he wasn't
career.
Flourishing at the end of it.
Right. Exactly.
No, I mean, it's the running joke that my friends and I always have is like, don't take a running back out of Wisconsin. You're going to be getting somebody that has over 700 touches before they even get to the league.
Right.
I mean, look at Melvin Gordon.
Ball off for Jonathan Taylor. It's like bound to happen.
Well, even this year, he's kind of trailed off. I mean, the whole offense has changed, but he's trailed off for the pace he started at.
Yeah, agreed.
Going back to the Love, like the top memory, Tyler says the Army hurdle made it look effortless. Michael says the USC hurdle, jumping over the defender, then lowering the shoulder into the next defender. And then Indigo Irish says the play this year where he was on top of the player and ran for the touchdown. That was the Navy touchdown. Some good ones. I mean, that's the great thing about Jeremiyah Love is he provided us with a lot of different highlights. It is, especially these last 2 years.
That USC play might have been the one that put him on the national radar. I don't know.
Yeah, the hurdle against USC. I think it was either that or the Indiana 98-yard run. Honestly.
I think by the time they made the playoff already, though, everybody knew who he was.
Right. But somebody was posting after he, made his decision, some of his Sun Bowl tape where he was still wearing number 12. And like, you look at how skinny he was then compared to like how built he is right now. He obviously, did a lot of work in the weight room to get his body to where it needed to be able to, withstand those kind of hits and be able to dish out some of those hits as well. So what about Jadarian Price? Top memory of Jadarian Price. I'm just going with either USC kickoff return. Like that's where I am with Jadarian Price.
Yeah. I mean, either USC kick return or when he started, he got his first touch in the second half against USC in 2024 and then proceeded to go for over $100. I mean, really just any game against USC with Jadarian Price, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going to say the run back against USC because, the thought we talked about it on the show was about if they think Love should be returning kicks. And it's like, well, that's an extra hit and it's a high leverage hit. So you can put Price back there and he broke it. So you don't have to use Love. So I think that, and then it showcased Price, and it's like, oh God, they have 2 good running backs to make that whole backfield unstoppable, really.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that Alabama defensive coordinator Kane Womack said at his pre-college football playoff press conference this week, the Crimson Tide has been playing in win or go home mode since they lost to Florida State to open the season.
It's hilarious, diabolical, putrid. disgusting, hopefully
I like
sarcastic.
how Trevor says hilarious with a completely straight monotone face.
I mean, look, man, I mean, you might have been. I mean, that to me just screams like a defensive coordinator that knew he was going to make the playoffs regardless of the outcome of the rest of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Different conversation for a different day. But in all seriousness, though, like that's just a dumb comment. You can't say you were win and go home mode after Florida State and then also lose 2 more games. One of them by 21 points.
Exactly.
No, Monday, Trevor said something and he hesitated. He goes, I have to watch myself because I know we're on radio. That's how I feel right now because I saw somebody in the chat say it. BS, like that. There's no way that you actually meant that and then lost 2 more games, which is obviously wrong. But then to see how bad Florida State ended up, I think that would even crush your soul if you're an Alabama fan. I just can't believe he would say that. I don't even know where that would come from, or is he trying to get his locker room riled up because it's not working?
I mean, they lost twice in the last month of the season. How can you stand up there with a straight face and say we've been in win or go home mode the whole time?
No, you can't say that after suffering the worst loss in SEC conference championship history, and that's not being hyperbolic.
No.
Alabama in 2025 is the first team in the history of the SEC conference championship game to go scoreless for 3 quarters
and not have positive rushing yards at all.
Yeah,
in that conference.
On top of the fact that, I mean, their only touchdown was a gift.
If you play 13 games and you lose 3 of them, that's a huge percentage of your season that you lost. I know that Notre Dame had 2 losses, but they were early. The team's different. To lose 2 games in your last month, if you really believe that mindset, then you're a failure as a coach.
Yeah. If I have to go to work for 13 days and just don't show up for 3 of them, I don't have a job at the end of that 13 days.
That's right. Look at Bobby doing some math, by the way. I'm proud of you, boy.
Well, I learned it from you, Dad. I hate it here. I mean it, though. Like, think about the numbers. If you have 12, so that'd be a quarter of your season.
No, that's true.
You lost a lot. It's the same in basketball when you get to the end and you have a 13-loss team complain they don't make a tournament or on the bubble. It's like, don't lose 13 games. You don't have to worry about it. But in football, we just haven't seen it before. And I know it's a discussion for another day. I'm not trying to get into it, but that's too many losses, especially at the end. And if you're going to have the mindset that every game is a playoff game, win or we're out, then something needs to change. Either your mindset needs to change, your coaching needs to change, your team needs to change, because clearly you're not making it.
We all can change, Bobby. I can change. You can change.
We can change.
That's right.
Thanks, Rock.
We'll take our final timeout, and then we're back to wrap up Rapid Fire Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Winding down rapid fire in Budweiser's weekday sports beat with irishbreakdown.com. I'm Sean Stiers along with Trevor Trowbridge and Bobby Hensley. Fill in the blank. USC announcing they have re-signed quarterback Jaden Mayava is blank.
I mean, silly. I understand what they're trying to do. I think you're just trying to bring something into the collegiate game that should stay in the pros. Like, I mean, re-signed, AKA is going to go to school for another year. What are we doing here?
I guess it's curious to me. Like, are we really re-signing people every single year? Like, is the whole roster?
I mean, that's kind of what it's come to now, unfortunately.
I understand.
But we just haven't seen people necessarily
are they being
make
transparent?
the announcement
Yeah.
like this. Yeah, where he's sitting there like it's signing day all over again or free agent day, and he's signing his new contract with USC.
I think here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to take a picture of myself sitting at my desk and just with my employment contract. I'm going to say I'm re-signing with Irish Breakdown for the 2026 season. Like, that's what I think it's the equivalent to. I think
you should just do it every show. We don't got to do it once a year.
I wonder if other schools are going to follow suit on this, or is this just like a Chad Bowden thing, like Bowden trying to get out there and, sort of like stir the pot a little bit.
Oh, it's so slimy.
Make some noise. That's how it feels to me, Bobby.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I don't like any of it. This is college football. We leave free agent signing to the pros. Like Trevor said, I don't know why we need to have it in college. You sign your scholarship or your letter of intent. Does all of that mean nothing, or is there an expiration date on it? Because if there's an expiration date, I guess technically the wordage is okay, but it just seems slimy, especially coming from USC. Doesn't sit well with me.
And it's just, like of all the things that I think about Nick Saban, like maybe he actually saw this coming down the pipe. You know what I mean? Like when he got out a few years ago, because it's an unfortunate slope of where college football has gone in a really short amount of time between the transfer portal and all the money that is readily available out there right now. That's why they're doing it, because of the fact that the transfer portal does exist. It's like, okay, we're locking down our prized free agent. We're not letting him walk. We're keeping him here in town.
Well, obviously in college, you're more about your brand. Like as a fan, you care about Notre Dame, you care about who you follow, but it's just so bogus that all of this is so fragile and anybody can leave at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why we need to have all these signings, because it's some of these teams that are in the playoffs, even they put these stats up, and this is where I get hurt. This is a stat of how many guys had a snap on this team a year ago that are starting now. And it's very few or zero on some of the teams. And that hurts because that means they're not even like of that institution. And I'm not singling any team out. I have one in mind, but they're doing pretty good this year. So I guess they are pretty good at working that portal and signing people. But it hurts because, like, if you're a fan, it's like, okay, we signed these 19 guys. So what about the guys you were cheering for last year? Now they have to go somewhere. I just hate all of it. I know that that's the nature of the beast right now, though.
Let me just go ahead, since we're kind of on this topic a little bit. Salty Virginia Peanuts put a question in the mailbag earlier. Who's the best portal quarterback currently? Best quarterback available in the portal. You've got, like, the ones off the top of my head. You've got Sam Leavitt from Arizona State. You got DJ Lagway from Florida. You got Dylan Raiola from Nebraska, and then the Cincinnati quarterback Sorsby, Brendan Sorsby, I think that's his name, right? Yeah, I think Sorsby. So, like, those are the top four that I can think of off the top of my head. Trevor, can you think of any others?
No, those would definitely be my top four as well. I mean, I guess what are we talking about best? Like overall skill set and like ceiling? It's probably DJ Lagway. I mean, just talking overall ceiling. So. But then like
in terms of production, I might lean toward Leavitt with what he,
Sure.
like obviously he was hurt this year, so he didn't get to play nearly as much, but he was a quarterback for a team that won the Big 12 last year and got to the playoff and pushed Texas to the limit ultimately. And
I think Leavitt's only a sophomore, so you get 2 years out of him. Georgia Tech had Aaron Philo. He entered the portal today. That'd be another good one. But I would think Sam Levitt just seems like he's got a unique skill set. He can run around, get the ball out. I don't know. What I've seen about him the last couple of years at Arizona State, he meant a lot to that team this year too. They were ranked and moving up in the polls, and then when he got injured, it was hard for them. So I'd say Levitt, but Georgia Tech losing their quarterback's hard too.
Well, he wasn't their starter though, so I mean, I don't know a whole lot about him because what's his name? Haynes.
Yeah, Haynes.
Yeah. Haynes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Philo was a kid that started against Notre Dame last year.
Right.
Because Haynes King was out.
Ira Chi-Town popped this in the mailbag earlier as well. How do we fix the very broken college football playoff? The BCS was bad, but this format is much worse. What do you guys think about that? What would you do to fix the college football playoff?
Definitely think you need more transparency. The committee needs to be held accountable for like using the actual metrics that they allegedly used, which they did use for the first 5 rankings. And then when the Sunday rankings came out, then it turned into I feel, it looked, we felt, which I think is just kind of a load of you know what. And then I think that I think that there should be no active sitting athletic directors on the selection committee. Like you're just not going to convince me that there's not a bias. That would be where I start.
Yeah,
I think that's a good one. Like the last one there, no sitting athletic directors. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, I was going to agree with that part of it. I don't know why they would even think that doesn't sound biased, but for me, it all comes down to the more you expand, the more you're going to have this convoluted system because there's less teams and if you have the top 4 this year, the playoff would have been pretty simple. You would have had IU, Ohio State, Texas Tech, and Georgia. And I don't think that number 5 would have been arguing about how they should have been in. It would have been okay. So I think the more that
you sure about that? You sure Texas A&M, Ole Miss, like those teams?
Ole Miss wouldn't have. You could argue Texas A&M, but like I'm saying, the more you expand, the more you get teams that are clustered together. So you're going to keep getting more and more of these debates, and then you're going to look at more and more resumes, and then it turns into what do you value, losses or wins or strength of schedule or how you finished or your stars. So I think that like what Trevor said is right. You got to look at their transparency. What is our criteria? Give us what you think. This is what we're basing it on. I know it's still going to go behind closed doors. You're going to get people spitting out whatever the heck they want. But how about you at least give us what your rationale was before it starts? So that way I know it's not the NFL. There's not going to be, well, this tiebreaker is this. But give me a rubric. Does a conference championship matter? Does a loss matter? Does a win matter? Just give me something to look off of so that I know during the year that this is the direction we're going instead of at the end talking about your feelings and about this and moving this one there, but not that one. And the whole thing sucks. But the more you expand, the more you're going to get clustered teams with 3 losses. If you go to 16 teams, so you got to have something to base it on, something to look at.
Yeah, and I mean that is obviously part of the deal as well. Is even if you expand to 16, then the conversation still becomes about teams 17, 18, 19, right. And whether how deserving they were. No matter where you move the field or how you expand it, there's always going to be some conversation. We talked about this earlier in the week. I think that the group of 5, there has to be a standard for them, whether it's you have to be ranked in the top 20, you have to be ranked in the top 15, assuming it's a 12-team format, for example. There has to be some qualification marker, especially for a second group of 5 to get in like this year, because we don't have the best 12 teams in the playoff. There's nobody, no one can argue that. You have 10 of the top 12 teams
maybe
in the playoff. Yeah, but
yeah,
well, right. I mean, there's obviously conversation about that. Yeah, no,
Thank you,
that's exactly right. But at least there was obviously, unless you're sitting on the Notre Dame side, there was less debate, I think, about those. But that also goes back to the fact that you had an SEC athletic director heading this whole pony show. There needs to be
and ESPN.
There needs to be the chairman. They need to lock in a chairman on at a minimum a 5-year period. And that chairman, whether it's a man or a woman, needs to be someone who is not directly attached to a school currently. It
Agreed.
needs to be like a former coach or a former conference commissioner or a former athletic director who is currently independent of, like working actively for any school or conference. There needs to be someone sitting atop that there. And then, like I said, the group of 5, there needs to be some kind of standard for them to make it, not just you are the champion of this group of 5 conference. There also needs to be, you need to meet a marker, whether it's top 15 or whatever it is in terms of your ranking to qualify to get in.
I think that should be the metric for any team. I think any team, if they're not in the top 15, I don't care if you win your conference.
Well, yeah, but for most of the rest
yeah.
there are, because like the other, like the other Power 5 outside of the ACC, and obviously the ACC, they plan on fixing their little loophole, their mistake going forward. They plan on addressing that according to what came out today. But yeah, like the other 3, by virtue of winning their conference championship games, they're ranked in the top 4. So they're like that's already there.
But how possible is it to find that person that could be the chairman? That's what I'm wondering.
There are a lot of people who used to work in closely in college football, I think, who could meet that criteria fairly easily.
Well, if you say that's what I'm worried about, because even like Nick Saban is the name.
Like look at Mark D'Antonio as an example.
Yeah,
like he was on the committee this year. Are you telling me that a sitting athletic director like Hunter Yurachek is more qualified than a guy like it feels like D'Antonio, who's a retired college football coach, would be just as qualified to hold that committee chair position as a sitting athletic director, if not more qualified. Again, because he's not currently attached to another school and he doesn't have both, his own constituency to answer to as well as the, a whole conference to answer to.
Or find somebody from the FCS level. They would have actively no bias.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like it's you bring in somebody from the FCS level, and it's like, this doesn't affect our outcome.
Yeah. We don't have time to get into this now, but Nick Saban is a hard no for me. Chi-Town. Irish Chi-Town said Nick Saban. And
5 years, he's 75 already.
We're running out of time. 1, he works for ESPN, and 2, he is obviously still very connected to Alabama
and the SEC.
And the SEC. Yes. All right, we've got to wrap it up with that. We'll be back tomorrow, though. Trevor, enjoyed it as always. Appreciate you sitting in, doing double duty. Bobby, it's always good to see you. I'll give you one. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.